the next thing we'd like to talk about would be drone insurance. Why do I need drone insurance? You know, the drone doesn't drop out of the sky all the time.
Well, you don't need drone insurance, but we advise probably you should. So
you should want it.
It's like driving an unregistered car, essentially. You're not going to have an accident, but the odd chance you do have that crash, it could be into a Ferrari, and you don't want to have to pay that.
Yep.
Or a building that's worth 20 million.
No.
Yeah. Smash some windows.
Get on public
Hurt some
liability.
people.
I think
also worth noting too with insurance, going back to the licensing. I mean, we were discussing this before. On your REPL and just your REPL, you will actually not be able to get insurance for flight, for commercial flights. You will be able to get insurance for theft, insurance for essentially dropping it and breaking it. But if you're in flight when it happens, not insured. For you to get your drone insured for during flight, you need to have a REOC. If you do not have a REOC, you will not be insured for during flight, and or you're not working under a REOC. So that's something to be very, very aware of. And also, drone insurance isn't cheap.
Especially when you add
keep
in
in
the
mind,
liability.
Yeah, it's a completely separate insurance policy to everything else that you have. So if you're a surveyor, if you're a photographer or whatever, you've got public liability now or whatever it might be, but you have to, your insurance company that insures you for that might not be able to get aviation insurance to insure you to do drone operations. So you have to take out another policy to get your aviation insurance, because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. We're in aviation. We're not in surveying or whatever it is. It's a different type of public liability, and it's looked at very differently. And you have a lot more risk profile when you're adding drones to your operation.
Yeah, so I think let's talk a little bit about some of our experiences around policies. So there's obviously public liability, which is your standard, your 20 start. I think 10 mils probably the minimum, but 20 is probably the most average.
Yeah, I think 10 mils in the middle.
Yeah, and then obviously your hull insurance, your airborne equipment, which means it's the drone and probably the battery, not necessarily the controller. So, because that's the thing in the air. So that insurance, like Brendan just talked about, is very much what's in the air. You've got to ask when you get your cover note, does it insure what's on the ground while I'm actually doing my job? If someone's actually stealing something from my ute. So run the scenarios through, because they're more than likely it's not going to get covered. It's probably going to need another policy for your ground equipment. So
and that can be like you said, Sean, anything out of your car, or if someone runs past and steals your RTK ground system, anything that, like you said, anything that's not in the air, it's not covered. So check it. You have to check it.
Yeah, even to the point, I know we've got separate policies for public liability, where if I'm operating a drone in the air and someone trips over my safety cone that's there, that's actually a different issue. It's not the same thing. It's not the drone flew and hit a building. It's someone who tripped. So you've got to think about the scenarios, and you've got to have that open conversation, especially if you're going to go under, work as a REOC holder in more commercial operations. But even if you're just flying, I think the best thing to do is just ask the questions, ask the scenarios, maybe post some questions to us so we can do some research ourselves and raise some of this stuff and share it with the rest of the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think because we cross over two different types of industries, it's not looked at the same way. So it's annoying and frustrating, and it might change in the future, but right now that's what it is. And you have to be across it and understand that you play in two different fields when it comes to insurance, because
the insurance industry is learning themselves, like us, right? So
and a new industry is a new industry. They've got to get up to speed the same way we all have to.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's just a very expensive process.
Yeah,
which is why I think the scenarios is good, because even when we were applying, unless you ask the questions, I was just shocked what some of the things weren't covered. But yeah, you got to ask the questions, I think, so you're comfortable.
Definitely.
And at least you know what you are not covered for, because if you just assume, you should just never assume that you're covered for it. So you got to check, because some of the equipment that we use is really expensive, and if it's damaged or stolen or whatever and we're not covered, it's just money out of your pocket. So it's better to be safe than sorry.
What do they say about assume? You make an ass out of you and me.
Used to use that all the time in the kitchen.
You and Danny have been practicing, man, writing stuff down.
Good at this.
Have you guys been sharing recipes as well? Or?
Have been.
We said we're not going
I reckon
there.
I can cook a better pulled beef than Danny, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh, no comment.